Welcome to my house in beautiful Naples, Florida. There are few places I'd rather be than to be here with you, my friends, on Amazing Stories Unwrapped. I love encouraging people. We all get more than enough bad news every day. There are plenty of folks who will bring negativity into our lives or put us down or do things that dishearten us. Not me. I'm here to lift your spirits, to put hope in your heart, a song on your lips, a spring in your step, and the confidence that all things are possible if you only believe. If you believe God, if you believe that God has the best plan for your life. Today I want to talk about one of the hardest things that any of us will ever face in our life. Rejection. Having been shuffled through 8 foster homes, having as a 6-year-old watched my mother walk out on me, I know how devastating rejection can be. So do some of you. It breaks your heart. It destroys your confidence. It's left some of you with deep, deep wounds, with bitterness, fear, insecurity, even paralyzed, afraid to move on, on the chance you might be rejected again. But I believe that rejection doesn't have to debilitate you. In fact, I'm confident of this. Every time you are rejected from something that you think is good, you're really being redirected to something far better. So let me unwrap a true story that will inspire you to overcome rejection. I call this amazing story 1,500 Rejections. The boy had too often hid traumatized in his bedroom while his folks threw angry invectives and fists like a bunch punch-drunk boxers in a heavyweight fight. When they finally had enough of their fighting and threw in the towel on their marriage, the boy was shuffled between foster homes until he was so bitter and angry that he ended up in a high school for troubled youth. No one figured that the bitter, resentful kid from the broken home would ever go the distance. But he had dreams. Dreams of being an actor, writer, and director in Hollywood. His brooding good looks got him a few bit parts in mostly minor movies. So to make ends meet, he was reduced to cleaning cages at the Central Park Zoo, reduced to ushering in a seedy movie house, even suffered the indignity of taking a part in a porn film to pay the rent on his rundown apartment. That's when he sat down and began to write a screenplay about a loser like himself. That screenplay was finished in less than 4 days. And so he shopped his script around Hollywood. But the wannabe scriptwriter said that he was rejected a total of 1,500 times. But every time he was rejected, he doggedly got off the canvas after every knockdown to go another round with media moguls. Some were willing to buy a screenplay outright, but they refused to let him star in it. Yet the determined screenwriter, the down-in-the-luck actor, wouldn't compromise. It was all or nothing. There would be no draw, no split decision. He would have to write, produce, direct, and star in his film. Finally, his dogged determination, in the face of one rejection after another, paid off. United Artists took a low-risk chance on his script. They said he could star in his own film, but he was only given a paltry budget of $1 million, forced to finish it in 28 days. It debuted to mixed reviews and small audiences, but word of mouth generated big buzz. Who would have believed that a small budget, quickly made movie, a movie that had been rejected by the Hollywood establishment 1,500 times, starring mostly unknown actors, would go on to become one of the biggest blockbuster films of all time, grossing more than $100 million off that $1 million budget, spinning off several sequels. Who would have believed? No one in the Hollywood establishment would. That film would go on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1977. But Sylvester Stallone, the boy who was rejected by foster home after foster home as a child, who had to clean cages at zoos because director after director rejected him as an actor, whose screenplay was rejected more than 1,500 times by Hollywood bigwigs, who would have believed that Sylvester Stallone would overcome all of those rejections to produce Rocky, the story of a washed-up, punch-drunk fighter who kept getting up off the canvas to go the distance, just like Sylvester Stallone. Rocky and its sequels have gone on to make more than $1 billion. One of the most successful movie franchises in cinematic history. Sylvester Stallone has gone on to be one of the biggest superstars on the planet. No action star has been bigger than Sylvester Stallone. The guy who couldn't pay the rent on his rundown apartment is now worth some $500 million. Back to Rocky, the movie that was rejected 1,500 times. Why do you think that countless millions cheer for that washed-up Philly club fighter to go the distance with the unbeatable Apollo Creed? And then those same millions went on to watch other films when he went on to become the heavyweight champion of the world in Rocky II, Rocky III, Rocky IV. Why do moviegoers go back to some pretty awful sequels to watch Rocky lose again and again, only to come back with the chant of Rocky, Rocky, Rocky reverberating through the arena? Maybe, just maybe, it's because Sylvester Stallone's story about Rocky is really his own story. And it's our story too. We all know what it means to be Rocky, to have our dreams shattered, to be down and almost out, to have others declare that we're all washed up, to face repeated rejections, to be beaten to a pulp by life. But as long as you and I believe this, we can still win. This is what I want you to take away today. As long as we can get up again, the fight is not lost. As long as we can get up again, the fight is not yet lost. What about you? Are you going to let what others say about you or how they treat you define who you are? Or will you say, like St. Paul on the last days of his life, I fought the good fight. I finished the race. And I have kept the faith. And now there's a prize waiting for me in heaven. There is a prize waiting for all of us who will fight the good fight. There was another moment when St. Paul wrote in another one of his letters, I've forgotten what lies behind. And I know this one thing. I need to live in a way that I reach forward for the prize. Reach forward for the things that God has called me to gain in this life. What He's called me for. God did not create you. He did not make you. He's not giving you the experiences that you've had in your life, even the rejections, even the defeats. He's not allowed you to go through those without a good purpose. He didn't send Jesus to die for you without a good purpose. I believe this with all my heart. We have a good God who loves us with a great love. Paul wrote in another place, I know this, that all things that have taken place in my life, whether they're good things or bad things, rejections, disappointments, defeats, I know this, that all things work together for good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. That's my hope. That should be your hope too. This story about 1,500 rejections and 364 stories you'll be able to find in my new book, the book of amazing story, actually the 1-year book of amazing stories. I have here an advanced copy. The book is set to be released on October 8th. I just got the good news that Barnes & Noble has selected it as one of its top 10 picks for this next year. Going to display it in its premier 295 stores, especially at Christmas time, as the book they're going to suggest that everybody buy for their friends, their relatives, or family for Christmas. Well, you can get a head start on that by pre-ordering the book at Amazon.com or at our website, robertapeterson.org. That story and many other stories to give you hope, to give you good news, to keep you going, to keep you overcoming, in spite of the rejections, defeats. Well, if you have to jump off now, we'll see you next Tuesday. And for those of you who can stay, we want to welcome you to Amazing Stories Unwrapped Overtime. Want to welcome Joyce. Good to have you with us, Joyce.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I hope you're doing well.
Just want to shout out to several people here. Of course, Renee.
Hi, Renee.
J. Paul is watching.
J. Paul, all the way from India. I think it's about 11 o'clock in India.
Yes. Chris McDonald. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Good to have you with us.
Charlene Martinez.
Charlene, nice to have you with us. Charlene takes her lunch hour and eats her sandwich and watches us on our Amazing Stories Overtime.
Ty is back. Remember, he had to leave North Carolina, and he's back at home, so he's watching today.
Ty, I hope you found everything okay at home. We've been praying for you. We've been remembering you, and all the other dear folks in Florence. It's in all across North South Carolina. The president was there yesterday, expressing the best wishes of the nation and the help of the nation. We want you to know, wherever you're at, particularly if you're in the Carolinas, that our prayers are with you, and we just pray for all of the good folks who have been so devastated by that hurricane and the floodwaters that came afterwards.
William Barnett. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill. Good to have you with us.
We have two watch parties going on. In the group, it's Christian, and another group, which we had the other day, the Tiny Stories.
The Tiny Stories, and the other group is what?
Well, Renee says here that it's Christian.
It's Christian. Well, that's good. That's good.
And let's see, we've got Brenda Stewart.
Hi, Brenda. Good to have you with us. One of our old friends.
Lisa Ziegler.
Hi, Lisa. Good to have you with us.
Coach So Fresh. So I'm not.
Hey, Coach. Good to have you with us.
Georgia Takas.
Hi, Georgia.
Elizabeth Thompson.
Hey, Elizabeth Thompson. There's a blast from the past. Elizabeth was one of our great, great friends in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Good to have you with us.
Sandy Stockdale.
Hi, Sandy. Good to have you with us.
Let's see. Nadine Mace.
Hi, Nadine.
Doug Lee.
Doug and I just had about a 12-mile walk the other day around the mall and the tidal basin, enjoying all the monuments. Doug is a retired general from the U.S. Army, was a chaplain, the head of chaplains for several denominations, and we just really appreciate Doug, an old classmate and a great friend.
Well, in fact, he says, just got the book, looking forward to getting into it. Can I get permission to read more than one story? I assume a day.
Sure, Doug, you have permission. In fact, my good friend Mike Duke, who is the just stepped down a couple of years ago as the CEO of Walmart International, in his testimonial about the book, said he tried to discipline himself to read one a day, but he found himself reading all the stories. The nice thing about this book, 365 stories, it'll take you a little longer to get through all the stories.
I think that's it for our shout-outs.
Well, good. And other people will be joining us today and throughout the weekend, and we just want to give a shout-out to you, even though we don't see your names. A lot of people watch who don't actually type their name in for us. But those of you who do, we appreciate getting to know who you are and the fact that you're following us.
We have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I have one, and if I can find it now, what happened? You said that you have had your share of rejections. How has that not debilitated you?
Well, I have to tell you that for a long time, it did debilitate me. One of the things that rejections did for me, and I began my life being really rejected from the very beginning when my mother discovered that I was pregnant, she wasn't happy. I think a child feels that in the womb. I felt rejected when she left me repeatedly. When she finally left, I remember as a child going into stores, wherever I went, I would look at the door as it opened and think maybe my mom's coming through the door. I remember Wayne, when I was 9 years old, who said, "I love you, I want you to be my son." And then a few days later, the welfare worker was there to take me away. I know what it means to be rejected. And the foster homes that I've been part of, I really do know that. It's very, very difficult to deal with rejection. And maybe some of you know how difficult it is to deal with rejection too. And so I was debilitated. For a long time, I was afraid to love people because I was afraid I'd be rejected. I was afraid to reach out to people because I was afraid they would reject me. I was paralyzed by rejection. It turned me into a people pleaser, always trying to say what I thought other people wanted to hear, always trying to do what I thought other people wanted me to do. I know when I was first adopted, when my parents said, "We want you to jump," I would always jump twice as high as they told me to jump. I became quite dysfunctional, even as a pastor, for many years, trying to please everybody. And one thing you learn when you become a pastor is you can't please most of the people most of the time. And I tried. And in fact, I think around it was around in the 1990s, I went through a real time of depression in my life. I had to actually see a doctor to work through that deep depression when I finally came to the end of myself. It was at that point that God really began to work with me. And I began to really understand that these things are true about rejection. We can't please most people. We won't. And most people are dysfunctional. Most people are hurting. And when we don't please them, they will reject us in some way or another, either verbally or they'll turn their back on us, or they'll freeze us out, or they'll walk away from us. And I had to learn, that's not my problem. That's their problem. And that was a hard thing to learn. And the other thing I had to learn was every rejection is really God's way of putting me in a new place. Every time I lost something I thought was important, God always replaced it with something better. The third thing I learned too is that there are good reasons sometimes people reject us too. So we need to take time and say, what did I do wrong? What can I learn from this? How can I improve from this rejection? Rejections are wonderful ways for us to really look at ourselves in the mirror. The other thing I've had to learn too, and it's really important, is that everybody's flawed. Everybody's perception is flawed. Right now we're having a big discussion in America about Judge Kavanaugh and about the accusations against him. And people are talking about how well do you remember things from 35 years ago? And we all are really taking a look at ourselves and saying, how accurate are our perceptions? And how accurate are the perceptions of other people? What is the truth? And so rejection helps us. It strips us away. And then the final thing, whenever I'm rejected by people, I've learned, Joyce, that I have to turn to God. And whenever I turn to God, I find a friend who will never leave or forsake me.
Yes, I agree with that. Amen. Renee has a question. How does one continue when they feel like they've lost the fight? But also we need to say hi to her niece, I think she said, Nicole Gurton.
Hi, Nicole. Good to have you with us. Well, Renee, there are times, to be really honest, that we really have lost the fight. There really are times when we have to throw the towel in. Sometimes the fight we're in is not the fight God wants us to be in. And sometimes it's not the fight that we should be in. And sometimes it's not our fight to win. Sometimes other people coming behind us will have to win that fight. And so first of all, sometimes it's okay just to say, I gave it my best shot. I did all I could. And the simple fact is, I'm not going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Apollo Creed is going to beat me. But I can know this. and this is what I got out of Rocky, it's not always important whether you win the fight. It's important that you can put your head on your pillow for the last time in your life and say, I gave it my best shot. I went the distance. So that's first of all. But if you think there's still hope, that the fight, if God has called you to be in the fight, you feel the fight is worth fighting to the end, then I guess you just have to get up off the canvas again. You have to ask God for the strength, perhaps. You have to have friends around you that will encourage you to get up again. Hopefully, you that are watching have a really close friend who always walks with you, who always encourages you. If you don't, you need to find some friends like that. But you need to get up again. Somebody asked Jim Braddock, the film Cinderella Man was about him. Someone asked him, how do you keep going? After he had lost so many fights, he said, you know what? I keep getting off the canvas and fight one more round. That's all we can do. Fights are never won all at once. They're won round by round by round. And so all I want to do is get up and fight the next round. If I get knocked down, I get up and fight again. If the fight is worth fighting, and if it is what I believe I should be fighting. And we need to remember, Rocky, or Sylvester Stallone, was rejected again and again and again and again before he finally won the fight. Abraham Lincoln lost again and again and again and again until he finally won the presidency of the United States. Winston Churchill was a failure his entire life almost until World War II. And so keep getting up. Keep getting up. And by the way, understand this. It's the being knocked down and getting up that makes you stronger and stronger to win the bigger battles in life.
We have a couple of more
Thanks
people.
for the question, Renee.
We have a couple more people who joined us. Brenda Heck.
Hi, Brenda.
Kim's mom, and then
Yes.
Barbara Moyer. But
Hi,
I
Barbara.
wanted to read these comments by Lisa Sigler. She says, my mother gave me up for adoption, but I was adopted very quickly when I was 6 months old. The Lord gave me a gift. I'm an empath. And then she also says, and I know that God had to remove me from the home I was born in and put me in the one that I'm in now.
You know, that's a great, great statement. And you and I are sort of, well, we're brother, sister in spirit. We're part of a fraternity of the brokenhearted, of the suffering. Now, I'll tell you, when you say empath, I assume you're talking about empathy. And you know, people ask me all the time, why is it that you are so effective in dealing with hurting people? Why is it you have so much empathy, so much compassion, that you understand my heart, my hurt? It's because I've been there. And I always say this, and I'll repeat it. I've said it several times on this show, and it's this. God will never take you across a desert unless he wants to use you to take other people across the same desert. And I would say to all of you that have been rejected and hurt, all of you that have gone through sorrow and pain in your life, don't waste it. Don't let those sorrows be wasted. Use those experiences. Use what you've learned and developed. Find other people. Become a counselor. Become a big brother, a big sister. Reach out to people that are in the situation you're in and go alongside them and share with them what God has taught you through that experience. Remember, all things work together for good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose.
I think that's it for the comments and questions. And Wanda Harper joined us at the very last. But
Hi,
just
Wanda.
wanted to say hi, Wanda. Hope you're having a good day. But I think that's it, Bob.
Well, and to Kim's mom, Jason's mother-in-law, we send out our love to you. Know that you've been through some tough times dealing with a couple of things that have to do with them in the last few months, but what's true for all of us is going to be true for them too. God's going to put them in a much better place. All of us are going to be, and we got to keep that hope. Well, that's my hope for all of you. You have a great weekend, a great future in your life. The best lines of your amazing life story, and as amazing as these stories are, your story is the most amazing story of all. and God has not yet finished writing your final chapter, I believe your best lines are yet to be written.
Have a great weekend, everyone, and remember to pray for each other.
Do that. God bless you.